The vastness of space stretched out before the Galactic Empire, a seemingly endless expanse dotted with countless stars and planets. For centuries, the Empire had reigned supreme, its advanced technology and powerful military allowing it to exert control over a significant portion of the known universe. However, on this particular day, something unexpected caught the attention of the Empire's long-range scanners. Deep within the heart of the Empire's capital ship, the Imperator, a young officer named Jackson, sat at his station, diligently monitoring the scanner readings. Suddenly, an unusual signal appeared on his screen, causing him to lean forward in surprise. "Commander Zara, I've detected an unknown fleet at the edge of our territory," Jackson reported, his voice carrying a mix of excitement and concern. Commander Zara, a tall, imposing woman with sharp features and a commanding presence, strode over to Jackson's station. She studied the readouts carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This is highly unusual," she muttered, her eyes narrowing. "No known species in that region should possess a fleet of this size and composition." Intrigued by the discovery, Commander Zara immediately brought the information to the attention of Admiral Varick, the highest-ranking military officer on the Imperator. Admiral Varick, a seasoned veteran with decades of experience, listened intently as Commander Zara explained the situation. "An unknown fleet, you say?" Admiral Varick asked, stroking his graying beard thoughtfully. "This could pose a significant threat to our interests in that sector. We must investigate immediately." Without delay, Admiral Varick ordered the assembly of a reconnaissance mission to gather more information about the mysterious fleet. A small group of highly trained scouts, led by the skilled and resourceful Captain Lena, was tasked with venturing out to the edge of the Empire's territory to observe and report back on their findings. As the scout ships departed from the Imperator, Captain Lena couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would be unlike any other she had undertaken before. The unknown fleet had appeared out of nowhere, and the Empire had no prior knowledge of any species capable of amassing such a force in that region of space. The journey to the fleet's location took several days, during which the scouts remained on high alert, their sensors constantly scanning for any signs of danger. As they drew closer, the scouts began to pick up more detailed readings of the fleet's composition and capabilities. Captain Lena's eyes widened in disbelief as the data streamed across her display. The ships in the unknown fleet were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. Their designs were sleek and advanced, incorporating technology that seemed to rival, if not exceed, the Empire's own. The scouts approached the fleet cautiously, maintaining a safe distance to avoid detection. They observed the ship's movements and formations, trying to discern any patterns or indications of their intentions. However, what they discovered next left them utterly shocked. As the scouts analyzed the energy signatures and communication frequencies of the unknown fleet, they realized that the ships belonged to none other than the humans, a species the Empire had long considered technologically inferior and of little consequence. Captain Lena immediately relayed the information back to the Imperator, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "Admiral Varick, the fleet belongs to the humans. I repeat, the unknown fleet is of human origin." The news sent shockwaves throughout the Imperator's command center. Admiral Varick and Commander Zara exchanged glances of disbelief and concern. The humans, a species they had underestimated for so long, had managed to assemble a fleet that could potentially challenge the Empire's dominance. As the scouts continued to observe the human fleet, gathering as much information as possible, the Empire's leadership knew that they couldn't afford to ignore this development. The discovery of the humans' advanced fleet raised questions and concerns that would need to be addressed swiftly and carefully. The Galactic Empire, once secure in its position of power, now faced a new reality, one in which the humans could no longer be dismissed as a primitive and inconsequential species. The game had changed, and the Empire would need to adapt if it hoped to maintain its grasp on the galaxy. Little did they know that the discovery of the human fleet was only the beginning of a series of events that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Empire and forever alter the course of history. The human fleet's capabilities. As the news of the human fleet's existence spread throughout the Galactic Empire, a sense of unease and uncertainty began to take hold. The Empire's analysts, tasked with studying the data gathered by the scouts, worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries surrounding the human ships and their capabilities. The more they delved into the information, the more astounded they became. The human fleet possessed technology that was not only advanced, but also remarkably different from anything the Empire had encountered before. The ship's hulls were constructed from material that seemed to absorb and deflect the Empire's scanning techniques, making it difficult to discern their exact composition. The analysts speculated that this material could provide the human ships with enhanced protection against the Empire's weapons. But it was the fleet's propulsion systems that truly left the analysts in awe. The human ships appeared to utilize a form of faster-than-light travel that was entirely different from the Empire's own warp drive technology. The analysts struggled to comprehend the principles behind this new form of propulsion, which seemed to allow the human ships to traverse vast distances in a fraction of the time it would take the Empire's vessels. As the analysts continued to pore over the data, they discovered that the human fleet was equipped with an array of powerful weapon systems. The ship's energy weapons emitted a unique signature that differed from the Empire's own plasma and laser-based armaments. The destructive potential of these weapons was yet to be determined, but the analysts couldn't shake the feeling that they could pose a significant threat to the Empire's defenses. Perhaps most concerning of all was the human fleet's advanced shielding technology. The ships appeared to be enveloped in a shimmering energy field that the Empire's sensors had difficulty penetrating. This suggested that the human ships could potentially withstand the Empire's most powerful attacks, rendering them nearly invulnerable in battle. The Empire's military strategists were deeply troubled by these revelations. They had always assumed that the Empire's technological superiority was unmatched, but the human fleet's capabilities challenged that notion. If the humans possessed such advanced technology, what other secrets might they be hiding? As the analysts delved deeper into the data, they discovered that the human fleet exhibited exceptional maneuverability and agility. The ships moved with a grace and precision that belied their size, executing complex formations and evasive maneuvers that the Empire's own ships would struggle to match. The Empire's leadership found themselves grappling with a disturbing realization. The humans, a species they had long dismissed as primitive and harmless, had somehow managed to develop a fleet that could rival their own. The implications of this discovery were staggering, and the Empire knew that it could not afford to underestimate the humans any longer. Questions began to swirl within the Empire's ranks. How had the humans managed to develop such advanced technology without the Empire's knowledge? Had they been secretly building their fleet for years, hidden from the Empire's watchful gaze? And perhaps most importantly, what were the humans' intentions? The Empire's leadership knew that they needed answers, and they needed them quickly. The safety and stability of the Empire depended on understanding the true nature of the human threat. As the analysts worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the human fleet, the Empire's military leaders began to devise strategies to counter this unexpected development. They knew that they could not afford to be caught off guard, and they were determined to maintain the Empire's dominance at any cost. But even as the Empire mobilized its forces and prepared for the worst, a sense of uncertainty and fear began to take root. The humans had managed to keep their technological advancements hidden for so long, and there was no telling what other surprises they might have in store. The discovery of the human fleet's capabilities had sent shockwaves throughout the Galactic Empire, forcing them to confront a new reality in which they were no longer the undisputed masters of the galaxy. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, and the Empire knew that it would take all of their cunning and strength to navigate the challenges that lay before them. The human fleet's capabilities had changed the game, and the Galactic Empire now found itself in a race against time to unravel the mysteries surrounding this unexpected adversary. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Empire knew that they could not afford to fail. The Empire's response. As the enormity of the human fleet's capabilities sank in, the Galactic Empire found itself grappling with a crisis unlike any it had faced before. The revelation that a species once considered inferior now possessed technology that could rival their own sent shockwaves through the Empire's leadership. Urgent meetings were called, and the Empire's most senior military leaders gathered to discuss the potential threat posed by the human fleet. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense, with a palpable sense of unease permeating the air. Admiral Varric, his face etched with concern, addressed the assembled leaders. The human fleet's advanced technology and unknown intentions present a grave risk to the stability and security of the Empire, he declared, his voice resonating with authority. We cannot afford to underestimate their capabilities or ignore the potential consequences of their presence. The room erupted into a flurry of opinions and suggestions. Some leaders, their faces flushed with anger and indignation, advocated for an immediate preemptive strike against the human fleet. They argued that the Empire could not allow such a powerful adversary to remain unchecked, and that swift and decisive action was necessary to eliminate the threat before it could grow. Others, however, urged caution. They pointed out that the Empire still knew very little about the humans' true intentions or the full extent of their technological capabilities. Attacking without a clear understanding of the situation could lead to disastrous consequences and potentially ignite a war that the Empire was ill-prepared to fight. As the debate raged on, Commander Zara, her eyes sharp and calculating, spoke up. "We must not let our fear cloud our judgment," she said, her voice cutting through the clamor. "The humans may possess advanced technology, but we cannot assume that their intentions are hostile. Perhaps there is still an opportunity for diplomacy, a chance to understand their motivations, and find a peaceful resolution." Admiral Varric nodded thoughtfully, considering Commander Zara's words. He knew that rushing into a conflict without fully understanding the situation could be a grave mistake. The Empire had always prided itself on its strength and superiority, but facing an adversary with technology that matched their own was uncharted territory. After hours of intense discussion and deliberation, the Empire's leadership reached a decision. They would send a diplomatic envoy to the human fleet, seeking to open lines of communication and gather more information about the humans' intentions. The envoy would be accompanied by a small contingent of the Empire's most skilled negotiators and diplomats, tasked with gauging the humans' receptiveness to peaceful dialogue. However, the Empire's military forces would remain on high alert, ready to respond at a moment's notice if the situation escalated. The Empire's strategists began to devise contingency plans and analyze potential weaknesses in the human fleet's defenses, preparing for the possibility of a confrontation. As the preparations for the diplomatic mission began, a sense of uncertainty and apprehension hung over the Empire. The discovery of the human fleet had shaken the very foundations of their understanding of the galaxy and their place within it. The once unassailable Galactic Empire now found itself facing an adversary that could potentially challenge its dominance. The path ahead was fraught with danger and unpredictability. The Empire knew that every move it made, every decision it took, could have far-reaching consequences. The fate of the galaxy and the future of the Empire itself hung in the balance. As the diplomatic envoy prepared to embark on their mission, the eyes of the entire Galactic Empire were upon them. The success or failure of their efforts could determine the course of history and shape the destiny of countless worlds. The Empire's response to the human fleet's presence was a delicate balancing act, a high-stakes game of diplomacy and strategy. They knew that they could not afford to underestimate the humans or make rash decisions based on fear or aggression. The future of the galaxy depended on their ability to navigate this uncharted territory with wisdom, cunning, and a willingness to adapt to the changing tides of power. Only time would tell if the Empire's efforts would be enough to maintain its grasp on the galaxy, or if the human fleet's emergence would mark the beginning of a new era, one in which the balance of power was forever altered. The human perspective. As the Galactic Empire grappled with the shocking discovery of the human fleet, a different perspective was unfolding on the other side of the galactic divide. The humans, far from being a primitive and inconsequential species, had been quietly and methodically preparing for this moment for decades. Unbeknownst to the Empire, the humans had long been aware of the existence of other intelligent life in the galaxy. They had observed the rise and expansion of the Galactic Empire from afar, studying its technology, its culture, and its military might. And in the shadows, they had been working tirelessly to develop their own capabilities, knowing that one day they might need to defend themselves against the Empire's ambitions. The human fleet, with its advanced ships and cutting-edge technology, was the culmination of years of secret research and development. The humans had poured vast resources into their space program, assembling a team of the brightest minds from across their civilization to work on the project. At the heart of the human fleet was a group of visionary leaders who had long recognized the potential threat posed by the Galactic Empire. They had advocated for the development of the fleet, arguing that it was essential for the survival and prosperity of the human race in a galaxy dominated by powerful alien civilizations. Among these leaders was Admiral Nora Vance, a brilliant strategist and a charismatic figure who had risen through the ranks of the human military. She had been instrumental in shaping the fleet's development, pushing for the incorporation of the most advanced technologies and ensuring that the ships were equipped to handle any challenge they might face. As news of the Empire's discovery of the human fleet reached Admiral Vance and her colleagues, a sense of both excitement and trepidation filled the air. They knew that this moment would be a turning point in the history of their species, a chance to prove to the galaxy that the humans were a force to be reckoned with. However, the human leadership was also acutely aware of the risks involved. They knew that the Galactic Empire was a formidable adversary, with vast resources and a long history of conquest and domination. Engaging the Empire directly could lead to a devastating war that the humans might not be able to win. As the human leaders gathered to discuss their next steps, heated debates erupted among them. Some argued for a preemptive strike against the Empire, believing that the element of surprise would give them a critical advantage. Others, including Admiral Vance, counseled caution, stressing the importance of diplomacy and the need to avoid a catastrophic conflict if possible. "We have worked too hard and come too far to risk everything on a reckless act of aggression," Admiral Vance declared, her voice firm and resolute. "The Empire may be powerful, but we have our own strengths. We must be strategic, calculated, and above all, patient. We cannot afford to underestimate our adversary or overestimate our own capabilities." As the debates continued, the human fleet remained on high alert, its ships and crews ready to respond to any threat or provocation. The humans knew that the Empire's next move could determine the course of their future, and they were prepared to defend themselves and their interests with every resource at their disposal. Behind the scenes, the human intelligence agencies worked tirelessly to gather information about the Empire's intentions and capabilities. They monitored communications, analyzed sensor data, and deployed covert operatives to gather intelligence from across the galaxy. Every scrap of information was precious, a piece of the puzzle that could help the humans navigate the treacherous waters ahead. As the galaxy watched and waited, the human perspective remained shrouded in mystery and speculation. The Galactic Empire, for all its power and influence, knew little about the true nature of the human fleet or the motivations of its creators. The humans, for their part, remained enigmatic and inscrutable, carefully guarding their secrets and their plans. But one thing was certain. The emergence of the human fleet had changed the galactic landscape forever. The balance of power was shifting, and the humans were determined to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of the galaxy. Whether through diplomacy or conflict, they knew that they could not afford to be mere spectators in the great game of galactic politics. The human perspective was one of caution, determination, and resolute purpose. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to be intimidated or cowed by the Galactic Empire. They would face the challenges ahead with courage, ingenuity, and an unwavering commitment to the survival and prosperity of their species. The galaxy would soon learn that the humans were no longer content to be a footnote in the annals of history. They were ready to take their place among the great powers of the universe, and they would do whatever it took to secure their future in the stars. Diplomatic tensions. As the Galactic Empire's diplomatic envoy approached the human fleet, an air of tension and uncertainty hung heavy in the void of space. The Empire's representatives, led by the skilled and experienced diplomat, Ambassador Zara Voss, were acutely aware of the delicate nature of their mission. The fate of the galaxy and the future of the Empire itself could hinge on the success or failure of their negotiations with the enigmatic humans. The human fleet, for its part, maintained a cautious and guarded stance. As the Empire's envoy drew closer, the human ships formed a defensive perimeter, their weapon systems on standby and their sensors scanning the approaching vessels for any signs of treachery or aggression. Ambassador Voss, her face a mask of calm determination, transmitted a message of peaceful intent to the human fleet, requesting permission to board their flagship for face-to-face negotiations. The humans, after a tense and prolonged silence, finally granted the request, allowing the Empire's delegation to dock with their massive gleaming vessel. As the diplomats disembarked from their shuttle and stepped onto the human ship, they were immediately struck by the advanced technology and sleek, efficient design of the vessel's interior. The humans, it seemed, had spared no expense or effort in creating a fleet that could rival the Empire's own. The negotiations began in a large, dimly lit chamber, with Ambassador Voss and her team seated across from a delegation of human leaders, including Admiral Noravance herself. The atmosphere was charged with tension, as both sides regarded each other with a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and barely concealed mistrust. Ambassador Voss, her voice calm and measured, began by expressing the Empire's desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual understanding. She spoke of the potential benefits of cooperation and trade between the two civilizations, painting a picture of a galaxy in which the Empire and the humans could work together as allies and partners. But the human leaders, their faces impassive and their eyes sharp, remained unconvinced. They questioned the Empire's motives, pointing to its long history of conquest and domination. They demanded to know why the Empire had never sought to establish contact with the humans before, and why it had consistently underestimated and dismissed their potential as a spacefaring civilization. As the negotiations progressed, the tensions between the two sides only grew. The humans remained guarded and evasive about the true extent of their technological capabilities, refusing to divulge the secrets behind their advanced ships and weapons. The Empire's diplomats, frustrated by the humans' intransigence, began to press harder for answers and concessions. Ambassador Voss, her patience wearing thin, made a final appeal to the human leaders. "We have come here in good faith, seeking to build bridges and forge a new era of cooperation between our peoples," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "But we cannot do so if you continue to hide behind a veil of secrecy and mistrust. If we are to move forward together, we must be willing to open ourselves to each other, to share our knowledge and our resources for the greater good of the galaxy." But the human leaders, their faces hardening with resolve, refused to budge. They made it clear that they would not compromise their own security and autonomy for the sake of the Empire's ambitions. They demanded that the Empire recognize their right to self-determination and respect their boundaries and interests. As the negotiations dragged on, the tensions between the two sides reached a breaking point. A heated exchange between Ambassador Voss and Admiral Vance erupted into a shouting match, with both sides accusing the other of bad faith and intransigence. In the midst of the chaos, a sudden and unexpected event shattered the fragile peace. A rogue element within the human fleet, long opposed to any form of cooperation with the Empire, launched a surprise attack on the Empire's diplomatic vessel, damaging its engines and life support systems. The Empire's diplomats, suddenly fighting for their lives, were forced to evacuate the human ship and flee back to their own fleet. The attack, it seemed, had been a deliberate attempt to sabotage the negotiations and push the two sides towards open conflict. As the Empire's envoy limped back to their own territory, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how the two sides would respond to this sudden and shocking turn of events. The diplomatic tensions between the Empire and the humans had reached a critical point, and the fate of countless worlds now hung in the balance. The galaxy stood on the brink of war as the Empire and the humans, two mighty civilizations with vastly different philosophies and goals, stared each other down across the void of space. The future, once so certain and predictable, had been thrown into chaos, and only time would tell whether the fragile peace could be preserved, or whether the galaxy would be consumed by the flames of conflict. The brink of war. As the galaxy reeled from the shocking attack on the Galactic Empire's diplomatic envoy, the fragile peace that had existed between the Empire and the humans began to unravel with alarming speed. The Empire, its pride wounded and its patience exhausted, saw the attack as a clear act of aggression, a sign that the humans could not be trusted and that more drastic measures would be needed to protect the Empire's interests. In the halls of power on the Empire's capital world, the Emperor himself convened an emergency meeting of his most trusted advisors and military leaders. The mood was grim and the stakes were high, as the Empire grappled with the realization that it now faced a threat unlike any it had encountered before. "The humans have shown their true colors," the Emperor declared, his voice cold and unyielding. "They are a dangerous and unpredictable adversary, and we cannot afford to underestimate them any longer. We must act now, before they have a chance to strike again." The Empire's military leaders, their faces etched with determination, presented a range of options for dealing with the human threat. Some called for an immediate and overwhelming attack, a swift and decisive strike that would cripple the human fleet and bring them to their knees. Others advocated for a more cautious approach, a gradual escalation of force that would give the humans a chance to back down and avoid all-out war. As the debate raged on, the Empire's forces began to mobilize, marshaling their vast resources and preparing for the conflict that now seemed all but inevitable. Warships were dispatched to key strategic locations, supply lines were secured, and the Empire's most elite troops were put on high alert. On the other side of the galactic divide, the human fleet was also preparing for war. Admiral Nora Vance, her face grim and her eyes blazing with resolve, knew that the attack on the Empire's envoy had been a grave mistake, a reckless act that had pushed the two sides to the brink of disaster. But she also knew that there could be no turning back now. The Empire, wounded and angry, would not rest until it had exacted its revenge, and the humans would have to fight with everything they had to defend themselves and their way of life. As the two fleets maneuvered and postured, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the spark that would ignite the powder keg and plunge the universe into the chaos of war. The Empire, its patience wearing thin, issued a final ultimatum to the humans, demanding their immediate surrender and the dismantling of their fleet. The humans, their backs against the wall and their pride on the line, refused to yield. They knew that surrendering to the Empire would mean the end of their autonomy and their way of life, and they were prepared to fight to the last to defend what was theirs. As the deadline for the ultimatum approached, the tension in the galaxy reached a fever pitch. The Empire's warships, their weapons primed and their crews ready for battle, began to move into position, while the human fleet, its own ships bristling with advanced technology and determined crews, prepared to meet them head-on. In the final hours before the deadline, desperate diplomats and peace advocates on both sides made one last, frantic attempt to avert the coming catastrophe. They pleaded for calm and reason, for a return to the negotiating table and a peaceful resolution to the crisis. But it was too late. The wheels of war had been set in motion, and there was no turning back now. As the deadline passed and the ultimatum expired, the first shots were fired, and the galaxy was plunged into the maelstrom of conflict. The war between the Empire and the humans would be a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen before, a titanic clash of civilizations and ideologies that would shape the course of history for generations to come. The stakes could not be higher, and the cost in lives and resources would be immense. As the two fleets clashed in the void of space, the fate of countless worlds and trillions of lives hung in the balance. The galaxy, once a place of order and stability, had been thrown into chaos, and only the strongest and most determined would emerge from the crucible of war to shape the future of the universe. The brink of war had been crossed, and there was no turning back now. The Empire and the humans, two mighty civilizations with the power to shape the destiny of the galaxy, would fight to the bitter end, and only time would tell which side would emerge victorious, and what kind of galaxy would be left in the wake of their titanic struggle. Resolution and consequences. As the war between the Galactic Empire and the humans raged across the stars, the galaxy was consumed by the fires of conflict. The two sides clashed in a series of titanic battles, their fleets and armies locked in a deadly embrace that threatened to tear the fabric of the universe apart. But even as the fighting reached its peak, there were those on both sides who refused to give up hope, who believed that there must be a way to end the bloodshed and find a path to peace. These brave souls, diplomats and peace advocates, worked tirelessly behind the scenes, risking their lives and their reputations to bring the two sides back to the negotiating table. At first, their efforts seemed futile, as the Empire and the humans remained locked in their deadly struggle, neither side willing to give an inch or show any sign of weakness. But as the war dragged on, and the costs in lives and resources began to mount, even the most hardened warriors and the most stubborn leaders began to see the wisdom in seeking a diplomatic solution. And so, in a secret location far from the front lines of the war, representatives from the Empire and the human fleet met once again, this time with a renewed sense of urgency and a determination to find a way forward. They knew that the stakes could not be higher, and that the fate of the galaxy itself hung in the balance. The negotiations were long and difficult, as the two sides grappled with the deep-seated mistrust and animosity that had led them to war in the first place. But slowly, painfully, they began to make progress, finding common ground and building bridges where once there had been only walls and barricades. In the end, it was a combination of hard-nosed diplomacy and sheer exhaustion that finally brought the war to an end. The Empire and the humans, both battered and bruised by the long and brutal conflict, agreed to a ceasefire and a framework for a lasting peace. The terms of the peace were not easy for either side to accept. The Empire was forced to recognize the humans as a sovereign and independent civilization, with the right to chart their own course and defend their own interests. The humans, for their part, had to agree to limits on their military capabilities and to open their borders to trade and cultural exchange with the Empire. But despite the challenges and the compromises, both sides knew that the alternative, a return to the horrors of war, was simply too terrible to contemplate. And so, with heavy hearts and cautious optimism, they signed the peace accords and began the long and difficult process of rebuilding and reconciliation. The consequences of the war and the peace that followed would be felt across the galaxy for generations to come. The Empire, once the undisputed master of the universe, found itself humbled and diminished, forced to confront the limits of its power and the need for a new approach to galactic affairs. The humans, for their part, emerged from the war as a major player on the galactic stage, their advanced technology and fierce independence earning them the respect and admiration of many other civilizations. But they too faced challenges and uncertainties as they grappled with the responsibilities of their newfound status and the need to find their place in a rapidly changing universe. In the end, the war between the Empire and the humans would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history, a moment when the old order was shattered and a new era was born. It was a time of great suffering and sacrifice, but also of great courage and determination, as individuals and whole civilizations fought to defend their way of life and to build a better future for all. The galaxy would never be the same again, but perhaps, in the end, that was not such a bad thing. For out of the ashes of war and the trials of peace, a new hope had been born. a hope for a universe where all beings could live in harmony and mutual respect, where the endless cycle of conflict and destruction could finally be broken, and where the promise of a brighter tomorrow could at last be fulfilled. The resolution and consequences of the war between the Empire and the humans would echo through the ages, a testament to the enduring power of the galactic spirit and the unquenchable desire of all beings to live in peace and freedom. And though the road ahead would be long and hard, the galaxy could face the future with renewed hope and determination, knowing that even in the darkest of times, the light of reason and compassion could never be fully extinguished.